How y'all doing? How y'all doing? This is Alvin with Brothers in the Kitchen, here with all my brothers. We have an amazing show today, guys. We got some good questions today, some good topics to address. And my panel here, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves.
Kelvin, can I do a little bit different and introduce you today?
Absolutely.
All right. It's my brother Kelvin over here to my left. Amazing brother, amazingly talented brother. Emmy Award-winning makeup artist, inventor, very, very creative, and a beast on the tennis court.
Oh, okay. Kevin.
I'll introduce myself. My name is Kevin.
All right.
Do y'all remember the song Float On? My name is Larry.
Yeah.
You remember that? That's what reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I'm Lorenzo, fashion designer, fashion stylist, and model.
You're not gonna say you're an amazing player on the tennis court because I know you play tennis.
I mean, well, you know, that ain't for me to brag.
Have you played Kelvin before?
I have played.
Did you beat him? Because you said he's amazing, and so I'm just trying to wonder who's the best.
I think we both beat one.
He's beaten me once.
Once, just once, huh? All right.
They're being nice adversaries.
I'm not trying to start anything once. Okay, cool. And one of the first things I want to talk about is reparations. But let me just tell you what happened. The United States paid reparations for Japanese American native land seizures, massacres, and police brutalities. Y'all know we've dealt with mostly everything on that list. Do you think reparations will be paid to slavery? And if you want to learn more about this whole topic on reparations in the United States, check out, there's an article called The Thorny History of Reparations. You can find it, Google it, and find out what you want to know about reparations. Personally, I want you guys to tell me first. And Kevin, I really want to start with you on this because when I was writing this, I was thinking about some of the previous conversations we've had pertaining to business and your views about politics is a little interesting. So I wanted to see what you thought about it.
Yeah, I would say this. When it comes to reparations, obviously, there's other communities that have received reparations before via the United States. So it's not something that's foreign. My opinion is, I mean, at the end of the day, they're not going to do it. By they, I feel like, we're looking at the government, we're looking at, the Senate, the House, Congress, everything all put together. They even having issues right now with student loan, situations as far as money is concerned. So as much hooping and hollering they do about some, smaller portions of money, reparations would go to a longer list of individuals. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, as I look at the government and how they move, and especially here in America, if they're looking to make right with anybody, it's not going to be black people. It's not going to be people of color.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think they would prefer a more docile, more obedient community, quote unquote, if they were to even, give any kind of money to anybody. So that's more so my view on it. And again, like I said, we live in a country that, they'll be like, okay, well, you fine because you got this. You don't need that. You know what I mean? Y'all got sports and entertainment now. Y'all be all right. Y'all be good. You know what I mean? So, in my opinion, it's one of those things that we can keep talking about it. I remember Chappelle's Show had a sketch about getting reparations and everybody getting reparations, but
Right.
I mean, it's a nice thing to think about, but truth be told, I think we just have to get our minds off of that as people of color. We've got to get our own, businesses, as I mentioned, and get our own money in a sense, because I don't see it being a handout that we about to receive. Not our race.
Not our time.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
Okay. Lorenzo, I think we spoke about this, and I need to apologize because I didn't introduce him first, y'all. Anyway.
No need to apologize. So good.
Yeah, so I'm trying to watch my clock. I don't want to get too much time here. So, what do you think about reparations? Do you think they will pay it to slavery?
I don't think they'll pay anything that we don't force them to. We don't stand up and speak enough for ourselves to force anything to be done. We can't expect them to give it to us. We have to fight for it, and we have to stand, whole as a community and do that. Can we do that long enough? That's up to y'all. You know, like you said, some of the Asian communities and stuff like that have gotten reparations. You know, they stand together.
Yeah,
They own
do.
businesses
They do.
together. They
Yeah.
fight for all of their rights together. They're running those Asian commercials right now. The Asian hate commercials right now. I see those more than almost any commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we don't have that, and we're not doing that for each other.
Right, right.
You know, we're not investing in those things. So if we want something to be done about it as a community, we got to stand up and fight for it.
Okay. Kelvin, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I would just want to say that they have both made very valid points. One of the things that I have discovered in some research or reading that I've been doing is if you pay attention to the question that you asked, and in the question it said Japanese American,
Yeah.
okay, and we are what? We're calling ourselves black. So by law, when you go into Black's Law Dictionary, they don't have to pay us reparations because we don't attach ourselves to a nation. And if they pay some reparations, then they're going to open up a Pandora's box, because then you're going to realize a lot of the people of color that are here in the United States or in America were already here. Everybody didn't come from Africa.
Right, right.
And the way they've been able to get away with this for so long is because during that time, we were not considered people, we were considered property. So if they didn't come together and attach themselves to a nation and say, I am Moorish American, I am Indian American, then they're able to get away with now giving us reparations. Until we come together as a whole and understand that black is not a race, black is not a nationality, they will always, as the old people say, pussyfoot around with us.
So you know what? I'm familiar with that whole thing about us not being able to identify as a culture of people because we call black or But to me, I think that's somewhat semantics as well, or just an excuse or reason, which may be legally a justifiable reason. But the fact that we've suffered the brutality, police brutality, and the massacres and seizures of land and all that stuff, that alone is enough that they've given the Japanese American people, you've done this to a group of people, whether you call them black, yellow, color, whatever you want to call them, those people that you actually have done that to. And for the United States to need an identifier other than what they've already done to pay it, I think it's just disingenuous on their part. But what you're saying is I understand that's the reason why they do it, but I think to me it's just like any other thing. They keep moving the goalposts every time there's something that needs to be done for us.
But that's our history.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what they do. If they can find any reason not to do right, then they will.
They will.
And if we as a people don't do the research, and we suffer from a lack of knowledge. If you don't know, then they're able to do this for however long. But it's all about you finding out what's then one of the things that I've been even flabbergasted about is the difference in what's considered lawful and what's considered legal.
Right.
So it's so many little things, loopholes that they get away. They have no intentions on paying it.
Right.
You know how much money that would actually really, really be? They have no intentions on doing it. So as long as they can get away with it, they will. And and that's just really the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's like Trump and his taxes. They gonna avoid paying it.
Yeah, it's almost to the point where I'm starting to believe, and I actually act accordingly. I know they're not going to give me, this country is not going to give me what is owed to me at this point, and I don't look for them to give me anything that's owed to me. What I don't look for them to do is take anything else from me, so I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen if I can help it. But I'm also realizing that I'm going to have to take what I want on my own, as opposed to them ever giving it back, because because you can see the signs that I don't have any intention on giving you anything. I don't even have intention on giving you anything that is owed to you. And with that part, what I was discussing, that, let me just move on to this next topic to talk about. Speaking of them not giving us what we owe. So check this out. How do you all feel about countries that have artifacts that were stolen and put in their own country's museum? Do you think they should be made to give it back, or what should be the consequences? And I got this. There are 10 cultural artifacts that the British stole from other countries, according to Insider. That's an article that you might want to read. So I try to give you all some. You don't think I'm just.
I think
You can look at yourself. Did they take something from
What-
you?
what-
Maybe he has something to say.
What's the show that Steve Harvey is the game show host?
Family Feud.
Family Feud. Yeah, I wanted to do the little.
What do you think? Do you think they, since you already talking, what do you think? Do you think they, what do you think should happen to those countries? Like British, they've taken stuff from
Okay,
other countries. What do
so
you think?
absolutely, you should be returning those things because they don't belong to you.
Right.
And you're a culture vulture, and they've been able to prove it. Now, if you purchased it, that would be a different thing.
Right.
But they looted, they
Right.
stole, so absolutely, and if you, I don't know, maybe like a month or two ago, Germany had a press conference where they gave back some of the art
they sure
pieces
did.
and artifacts that they took from West Africa.
Right.
And if you can look it up on YouTube, the address that the young lady gave to Germany. She was an African young lady. It was so eloquent and really great. So if you can check that out,
I
please
think
do
I've
so.
seen her on TED Talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I know. I know yeah.
She did an amazing job with hitting all the points and not evading and holding them accountable. But absolutely, and especially when it comes to England, England has been the worst.
Right.
Absolutely the worst. And so absolutely they should be returning. It does not belong to you.
Right, right.
And there's no way that you can make that right.
Lorenzo, what do you think?
I mean, I definitely agree with what Kelvin said. Absolutely. The fact that people profit off of someone else's the artifacts and livelihoods and stuff like that, to me has always been ridiculous.
Yeah.
The fact that the open heart surgery was invented by a black man, and they stole that from him. So there's priceless things like that can never be given back. But when you have an actual artifact that belongs to a whole country and a whole person that created that, I mean, come on.
It's kind of like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Kevin, what you think? You got some of yours?
I mean,
You
I
wanna get
definitely
back?
agree, but at the same time, it's like they grandfathered in now. You know what I mean? Who
I
will
mean,
come
but-
take it?
but
Who will come take it? You know what I mean?
But is that a justifiable reason to
No,
not to have
of
to
course
replace
not.
something that you stole?
Of course not. You ain't supposed to keep it, but at the same time,
They fixed it so they could justify keeping it.
The question is, who is this going to be a conversation for the United Nations, or is this? How is this? Who's the governing body?
He said he got that old plan.
Well,
They keeping it.
being
That's what I'm saying. Who's gonna do it?
But listen, being that you're asking that question, that it goes before the United Nations.
Right.
Even going back to the question we were talking about as far as reparations, the way that the United States have been able to get away with that is because normally the United Nations would back whatever country that needed the reparations.
Right.
But again, because we don't address ourselves as a particular nation, we address ourselves as black, they don't see us, they can't intervene.
Understood?
Yeah, but they stole this stuff.
But
from
these people,
countries
yeah.
that
But those
don't have a
countries
problem
will
with
have to
identifying.
go through whatever legwork that has to put it before the United Nations. But they're in the midst of doing all that. Several African countries are doing that right now.
Well, I like the way they did it in the movie Wakanda. Just go over there and get your stuff. Did y'all see Wakanda?
Listen,
Wow.
Just go take your stuff. You know it belongs to you. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, well, there you go. You be like Russia.
So you know what? Check this out. Go ahead.
what I think is quite interesting is, and I think it's an oxymoron, the public, people really need to pay attention to. Colonizers, Europeans would tell you or have the idea that Africans are less intelligent or whatever the case may be. If they are less intelligent and not as developed, why are you so vested in their artifacts and their history and their culture?
Yeah.
Right.
That absolutely makes no sense. It's an oxymoron. And I think that we need to pay attention to those things.
Yeah, yeah. I saw yesterday, I really want to remember the country. So I can't remember the country, but I saw a video yesterday on YouTube where Bill Gates had taken some corn to give to another country. And it was genetically modified. When I tell you, they got together and told him to take all your stuff back. If you can't sell it to the United States, why are you trying to sell it to us?
Right.
And for that, I think we should do the same thing about it. If we're not gonna, we already know this stuff is not good, and then they want to send it to that country and not label it as genetically modified and just sell it to them. And they're like, you need to put a label on this, and then you need, if you can't sell it at your own house, why you selling it to us? Make it seem like you're really doing something for my country.
Capitalistic society.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
And then the other thing about taking stuff, it seems like every time, a lot of times when the United States go to war with another country, they come back with a suitcase full of land and all kinds of stuff. In a lot of cases, you know what I'm saying? You're like, why y'all, you went to, and tore the country up and was fighting for whatever reason you said needed to be done, and now you got a whole resort over there, and you took some land and.
Probably just
I mean, but to be fair though, you know, there's Asian countries as well as Russian countries that own farmland here, and we don't.
But they didn't take it.
Yeah, they did. They did. It's definitely taken, and you know they're profiting off of it now because not only are they making profit off of the farmland itself, they're also taking the product that is produced on that farmland back to their countries to feed their country.
So I thought that, like for Russia, an example, or China, for example, come over here and purchased land and.
They falsified documents to be able to purchase the land. That's stealing.
That's
so they've been able to prove this.
Yeah, absolutely. The government has proven that the land has been stolen, and now we're in a position to where our government doesn't even know or have the means to get it back.
And let it be you, or let it be one of us. See if they gonna find a way to get it back. But I'm just saying. Yeah, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm about to do it again. Yeah, let's just start. You know, start the conversation, start the project, and don't let not starting be the reason you didn't succeed. Enter a space where you can dream free and start or continue your journey. Located in a building and street full of history, I challenge you. I challenge you to start. You see the vibes. No worries. With our space and your...
All right, y'all, we're back. We were talking about reparations a minute ago when we left and how we ain't gonna get nothing back, y'all. At least I don't think we'll get anything back. All right. So moving on to this next question. Are y'all finished talking about the artifacts? Y'all figured out a way to go back and get it? We done with that?
That good is gone.
That's good as gone. All right, so this is a tough one right here. I really, we've talked about this before, but there's been some recent events that makes this a little hard for me to even want to discuss because you get tired of hearing the same thing over and over. And so let me just give you all some dates and some stats. So as of November 30th, 2022, this year, the U.S. police shot 993 people to death in states. 42% million, when they say 42 per million for black, that's 42 per million for black, and 17 per million for white people, which that's a big racial difference. What do you think should be done to solve all of the shootings? And just a side note, this came from a statistic called Statista, is what it's called, and it's Statia. So if you want to look it up, which is a great reference for resources. I read so much stuff, I was kind of getting caught up with that. It doesn't say it was self-defense or anything. It just said there was 993 murders, and it lets us know the percentage of them that were white versus black. There were other cultures or people of color, different colors, racial ethnics that built up, but interesting enough, we of course were the highest. I think that they should start, first of all, stop giving a police officer time off with pay. And I also think they need to fix it so a police officer could be sued for killing someone, especially if it was not self-defense. And then finally, I think that not only should the police, right now we sue the state, they'll sue the city or wherever the police department, but it should definitely be where you could sue the police officer and affect that pay. Don't nothing hurt a person's better than their pocket. That's the one thing I do know about the other people, white people. When you start affecting that bottom line, I don't care what's going on, that's gonna be fixed. But we don't, because we've marched and we've done everything else in the world except for affect that bottom line. And I think the only time the bottom line looks like it's being affected, is that's when we start marching. And really the only benefit of that is the stores are now open and it's affecting the economy a little bit. So just imagine if we just, okay, you know what, you're gonna be sued, and we're not going to be doing no more shopping for a while until y'all get this straight. And I promise you, I don't care what side of the house, Republican, Democrat, Independent, it'll be fixed.
Yeah, so you touched on a lot, and you opened that question up to make it about more than just one thing. So it's a lot of things to touch on, and that the way you presented it. So let me work on it backwards. So when you were speaking of the things that are lost in the stores that are not opening, let's be really, really clear, you guys, on that part, because I think that we think that was really damaging to business and to the economy, and it wasn't. Because a lot of those stores that didn't open during the protests and during those different things, for one, they have insurance policies that cover that. Number one. Number two, when you look at the amount of times that those stores were open during or closed during the pandemic. The things that were stolen and damaged and you know, all of that, not only were they all covered, those stores and those businesses didn't lose out on anything, because they had already missed that selling season anyway for all of that product that was in their stores because they were closed for COVID. You know what I mean? So there wasn't a huge loss and there wasn't a huge impact that was made. Yeah, there was some structural damage and some things like that done to a lot of these different buildings, but it bothers me when people put things like that over the lives that are being taken. So working on the first part of the question, as far as the things that we can do to change the policing to get it to stop, I'm a firm believer in defunding the police, and no, that doesn't mean take the police out of the community altogether. Yeah. That means change the who we're giving the funding to and who we're hiring as police officers, in my eyes. So we have to change that part of it, and then the other part of it that we have to change is the training. They receive no training that deals with our melanin, our skin color. When I see police officers approach my car and approach me, I see fear in their eyes. They fear the way that I look. That needs to be addressed. That is something psychological that people are not touching on, that people are not addressing. The fact that my skin tone alone is threatening to you is an issue. And we need to address that a lot more, because the way that I figured that part out is we all have something that makes us uncomfortable with being around someone else. There's some type of situation that we can put ourselves in that will make us uncomfortable with being next to that person. For me, my thing is drugs. I don't know how to handle, and I get anxiety, I get anxious, I get real uncomfortable when I'm around people that are under the influence of drugs. Because to me they're unpredictable. I can't tell what they're looking at. I can't tell what their where their mindset is. In a room with people who are all clear-minded and clear, like, you can pretty much feel the room and feel the energy in the room, and you can see that everybody's okay. But when people are under the influence of drugs, to me they're very, very unpredictable, and that to me makes me uncomfortable. And I can assume that that's probably part of the reason, like that same fear that I have over the drugs is probably that same fear that some of these police officers have over black men.
And I can see that being possible. Let's hear from you.
Well, I completely agree with the ending part of his answer, and that is training. The training that policemen go through is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And not only that, mental health. The screening that they should be going through, the actual training, psychological training is required for police work. And so I think that they breeze through that way too early, way too quick, and they allow too many. I don't think that they are being restrictive enough about who they allow to be policemen. So that's the first thing. Is training is definitely that stands out for me. And defunding the police. I think, like, really making, when I say defunding the police, is basically what Lorenzo was saying, but also what I feel like you said, and that is affect those pockets.
Yeah.
When you can affect, people think twice about whatever it is that they're doing when they know that their pocket is going to be affected.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, is life and money. Those are the things.
Yeah. I really believe that. Kevin, what you
So, I mean, obviously, I have great people up here with, so of course I agree with them. But I will say this comes back to the community aspect as well, right? So a couple years ago, I was at a nonprofit leadership conference, and the guest speaker, she was discussing how here in the city of Atlanta, there is a life expectancy difference that's up to 5 to 7 years within a 2 to 3 mile radius.
in that community.
Yeah, here in Atlanta.
Okay.
Specifically. So obviously that makes you think, well, what could lead to the differential in somebody's life being 5 to 7 years from them living in this zip code to this zip code? She said 3 mile radius. There's some places in Atlanta that I could think of specifically. I'm like, okay, it does change pretty fast here. So when I look at, the numbers in what you said, in regards to the police differential and how many white people versus, people of color that are killed, it's astronomical, obviously. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it, it has to be more than, just the police, rectifying themselves too. I do feel, like I said, going back to training, and then I am somebody that believes in defunding the police too, and putting those funds in other places. But again, I do feel like community-wise, that's where there's education that has to come about too. You have your NPU meetings, which is your neighborhood planning units. Not everybody knows about those things, because they have no reason to go if they, if they have nothing to argue or discuss. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's different elements. I feel that from a community standpoint, we can learn more about the issues that are currently happening in the community. Some people are oblivious to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'll think that, okay, what happened to them, so it ain't gonna happen to me. And it's like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? But again, I do feel like it's a community aspect too, where, not just from politicians, but your community leaders, your churches and various things, they're taking account too as well. These are my people in my community, so let's bring some more resources and more ways to educate them on, hey, this is the issue at hand. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Similar to the Green Book, right? That was a book that was put out to help I believe it was people that were enslaved figure out the different ways to get through the South, right?
Okay.
Somebody took the time to put that together to help other individuals.
Right.
I'm saying there has to be kind of a playbook similar to that could be able to assist individuals in our communities.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
And I definitely agree with that, but one of the other things that I think we also should look at as a people and as a whole is our own police force and our own task force that police the police. And what I mean by that is have our own task force and our own that does our own investigations, because that's one of the things that is a slow process, and is that because they're all protected by the union, of course.
Right.
So if we had our own outside investigation team and our own outside, attorneys and our own outside police that were able to protect us and show up on those scenes, we have a few attorneys that every time someone black gets killed, they show up and they do their part.
Right.
But we also need that whole task force that is monitoring and watching what's happening and making sure that those numbers don't look the way that they do when
Next
you
year.
just read.
Right.
police to police.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much. We run out of time here. I really appreciate you guys. And this particular show to me was a little heavy because we were dealing with so many different dynamics that a lot of stuff impact us, but that whole a lot of stuff. But anyway, thank you all for watching Brothers in the Kitchen. This is Alvin. See you all on the next episode of Brothers in the Kitchen.